Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Grace Holland. Cleanup efforts continue after 10 tornadoes tore through eastern Carolina last week, all of those touching down as Tropical Storm Debby soaked our state with several inches of rain. WRAL Meteorologist Aimee Wilmoth was in the Storm Tracker following the storm before and after it hit our area. She was also one of the first on the scene, that deadly tornado in Lucama. She's here in the studio with me. Aimee, thanks for being here. I hope you got some rest this weekend.
I did. Yeah, it was a busy week, and I got a lot of much-needed rest. Thank you.
Very good, very good. So when and where did you start following the storm?
So Jamie Munden is the photojournalist that was with me in the Storm Tracker. We left Monday morning to go to Savannah.
And countless roads covered in water here in the Savannah area. In fact, we're in front of one of those that's covered in water that stranded a vehicle just a short time ago. And
so we kind of wanted to do what we did with Idalia, and we followed it from Florida into the Carolinas, and that's what we wanted to do this time. And so we drove to Savannah on Monday, stayed the night in Savannah, and that's where everything got started as far as our coverage is concerned.
And for our listeners, a lot of them probably seen the Storm Tracker on TV. What's it like to be riding in the Storm Tracker?
It's for myself, if I'm in the passenger seat, I am busy working the whole time. So I have my laptop, I'm looking at radar, I'm in conversations with producers and keeping them posted. But it's exciting. I mean, that's what got me into this field of meteorology, was storm chasing. That's how it got started for me. I was in a storm chasing club in college, and I just have always loved being out in the weather. Now where I am in my career, most of the time I'm spent inside. So when I can get outside in the Storm Tracker, it's so exciting, and I love seeing the storms.
Right.
I don't necessarily like seeing the aftermath of the storms,
right.
But it's just an exciting time to be in the Storm Tracker.
Right, and very important because you're able to really keep people updated on what it's looking like right then and there. So how did Debby change as you moved from Georgia to South Carolina and up here to North Carolina?
So our experience was very heavy rain the entirety of the event. So we had to deal with that. So driving and navigating the roads in some of these lower elevations was very challenging at times. A lot of times we would come across roads covered in water. We'd have to turn around and find a different route. We continued to travel to the north. That's when we started to get into some of the tornado threat and the tornado damage, and that's what we ended up seeing some damage in the Savannah area, and then again we saw some more damage once we were in the Charleston area and just north of Charleston.
But look at this. Photojournalist Jamie Munden zooming in onto an air conditioner that belonged to Arby's, but it's on the ground now. It was on the roof before the tornado hit. Fortunately, it was overnight. This is a commercial area, and there are no injuries to report, which is the good news in all of this. Nobody was here at the time, but
it demolished a fast food restaurant. It hit a car lot, that a car dealership, and kind of tossed cars around. So really the entirety of Debby was rain and then tornadoes. It was the same in Georgia, in South Carolina, and then in obviously in central North Carolina as well.
Right. And so by the time that you guys got back to Raleigh, we're heading into Thursday, which we kind of knew for a while was going to be the worst day for our area. Did you feel like we had an idea of what what we were expecting to see, or did it kind of outpace your expectations?
Well, certainly, what happened was just horrible.
Yeah.
And Kat dug up some information. We hadn't had a death from a tornado in our area since 2011. So we certainly weren't expecting anything like that. But we did Wednesday. Originally on Thursday, I was going to kind of go to Myrtle Beach and work my way up. But then Wednesday evening, we were looking at everything and we were like, no, we need to be back at home by Thursday morning. And so we knew starting Wednesday that our plan had shifted and that we needed to be tracking everything at home on Thursday. So we knew it was going to be a rough day. Didn't think it was going to go the way it did, but we did know it was going to be a rough day for us.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break right there, and we'll be right back. Aimee, before the break, you were talking about how on Wednesday your plans shifted to being closer to Raleigh because the meteorology team just had an idea and a gut feeling, and also looking at the forecast knew that this was going to be a rough morning on Thursday for us. So walk us through the start of your morning. I know it's a very early morning, and then also just the team of meteorologists here at WRAL.
So Jamie was with me again, and our day got started at 3:30 in the morning. That's when we met at the station and kind of looked at the radar, and we were deciding where to go when our news team was getting all of the information about the middle school in Wilson County that was damaged. And they said, we need y'all to go there and check it out. And I was like, well, don't you want me chasing the storms? Typically we would send news crews, but that early in the morning, we knew to get there early because we weren't sure where we were going to need to drive to. We were really the only option.
We're going to Lucama so that we can show everybody what happened there in Wilson County at the middle school. And as soon as we get there, we're going to show you the pictures that we're seeing, and we'll show you the damage that happened to that middle school. So we're continuing to drive. Jamie Munden, the
That's what kind of put us at that location. It's because we had all the reports. We had photos, too, of the middle school that was damaged. And so we went there to check it out for our news crews.
Right. And, I was also working that morning. I was down in Ocean Isle Beach and just hearing, like you, I'm sure, a lot of the show through my ear. And it was just amazing the number of tornado warnings that kept coming through. You being out there in Lucama ended up being in some of the ones that came later, right? So what was it like being in some of those tornado warnings while you're also trying to get this information out of folks?
Well, luckily, we have all kinds of tools in the Storm Tracker. I can access our dual pole radar. So that's like the first part of my job, is keeping us safe. We want to get the message across to viewers where the tornadoes are, but we have to keep ourselves safe to keep doing that. And so I was monitoring radar nonstop. It was exciting. Like I was, once the sun came up and I could see the clouds, I was like looking for rotation and things like that. We were in several of the tornado warnings, and there were times where I'd look over at Jamie and say, hey, we got to have an escape route to the south. This is getting a little close to us. And so he and I were just very in tune with each other. I was communicating with him, and he was keeping track of different ways that we could get out of the storm if we needed to really fast.
Yeah. So as you're in Lucama, like you said, you first were there because we had the tip about the middle school and we're checking that out. But going to the middle school, I went back and watched. You found some other damage too. So walk me through kind of what it was like once you got out there and started seeing the damage.
Yeah, well, first we started seeing trees and branches in the road, and so we were kind of having to go into different lanes and go around the trees. And so I was like, oh, this doesn't look good. I think that something happened here, and I don't know how because it was totally dark, but Jamie happened to notice on our right. He said, hey, that house, something is up with that house. And so we have these lights on the Storm Tracker that we can shine to the sides. And once we turned that light on, it was like, oh my goodness, I hope nobody's in that house. This first house we saw that was damaged.
In Wilson County, we're about a mile away from the middle school that was hit by this tornado. So you can see the damage here. This is a home, and I don't see anyone out and about looking at the damage, but there are power lines down. The roof is completely gone.
There were huge trees snapped behind it. So we couldn't get a full idea of what the damage was because it was still so dark, but that's the first thing we saw. And then our manager said, okay, now you've done that, keep going and check out the middle school. And so we did.
Lots of damage. We made it to the middle school. I want to go ahead and go straight to the image that we're seeing here. So this is one of the wings of the middle school. And there's a lot of damage to this part of the middle school. So if I pan over here to the right, that's where the main entrance is to the school.
There were power lines down everywhere at the middle school. And so when it was suggested that we try to get out and get video, I said, no, first and foremost, we got to stay safe. And there's power lines down. We're not getting out. And so we could see that the school was damaged, but then the police made us move pretty far from the scene, understandably so, with all those power lines down. And so they moved us so far back we couldn't even see the school anymore. And so we called our manager, and we're like, we don't need to stay here. We're getting word from people driving by that there's more homes damaged, and that's when we went back down that road that we first saw that home on. And little did we know we had passed the home where there was the fatality, sadly.
Absolutely, Renee. What you're looking at right now is a home that has totally collapsed. Definitely damaged by this tornado. And if you're
we had passed that earlier in the morning. We just couldn't see it because it was set back farther off the road.
Yeah, and dark, of course.
And dark. And by the time we went back, it was starting to get to daylight. And, we pulled in the driveway. No one was there. It was so eerie and bizarre. I was just like, gosh, I hope nobody's in that house, because you could tell the second floor was just on top of the first floor, it crumpled to the ground.
Yeah. And being there, you kind of stayed there for quite a while, I think, the rest of the morning. So how did that scene kind of develop? Because I remember hearing you talking about neighbors coming by and then the FEMA crews that were trying to find Mr. Barnes.
Yeah. Well, when we first got there was literally nobody there except us. And so it was just weird. We didn't know what was going on. And then I guess maybe, after we'd been there about 10 minutes, one of the neighbors came over and was explaining to us, that his truck was in the back and he lived here alone and they can't reach him. And I was like, oh my goodness, do you think he's in there? And that's when he told me, I really do. And he got very upset, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, they were friends. And he was pointing out the bedroom to me. It was just a horrible feeling.
Okay. All right, we're going to send it out to meteorologist Aimee Wilmoth, who's down in Wilson County.
Elizabeth, we're here with one of the neighbors of the man that lived here. His name was Brian. Tell us what you're doing out here.
We're trying to find his body. We've talked to a family member, and he's not been accounted for. And you see the devastation of the house. He could be anywhere. And we know what happened. We live right across the woods.
And any damage to your home right across the...
Thank goodness, no.
And
in the end, we found out that he didn't make it.
This morning, this is just a tragic update. We confirmed with a Wilson County spokesperson that there was at least one person who died who was reported missing, and that was on Lloyd Road over in Lucama. That is where we find WRAL's meteorologist Aimee Wilmoth. She has been out there. She has been speaking with people who are neighbors out there, and we see her there. We see the crime scene tape behind her. Aimee, it's been a little bit since we've seen you. Can you just sort of paint us a picture of the atmosphere? What is it feeling like out there as people are approaching you after hearing this tragic news?
I mean, obviously, it's just a very somber moment. Now that we have confirmation of one fatality in this house collapse behind me here, and it is what we feared. It's what neighbors feared. We did talk to some neighbors.
It was just so sad to see the aftermath of an EF3 tornado and what it can do.
Yeah, and once things, sort of started to calm down, I'm not sure what time you came back to Raleigh, but, I'm always struck when I go out to things like that, the community coming together. And so was there a lot of that you at least got to see?
Oh, for sure. They were out helping each other clean. I mean, there were numerous homes that were really, really damaged, and it was great to see the support for one another. You could see that these were all neighbors, and they were very visibly upset that they had lost a neighbor. And I have not stopped thinking about that community ever since I left. I'm not a news reporter, so that was really something eye-opening and different for me. And one thing I learned too from that is just I admire our field crews so much that are doing that every single day, reporting hard things like that.
Yeah.
Huge admiration for them doing that every day, because I felt like I needed the whole weekend to just kind of recover from it.
And were there any other lessons that you took away from covering this storm?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, this is probably just the very beginning of what's going to be a pretty hectic end of August and September. We knew that this was going to be an active tropical season. All the forecasts showed that. And so, it was very similar to other tropical systems. The tornadoes formed on the right side of the circulation. That's exactly where the tornadoes were with this storm. For any storm that stalls the way this one does, it's going to produce a lot of rain, and it produced a lot of rain. So it really behaved in a typical tropical system manner.
Okay. Well, Aimee, thank you so much for your hard work out there, and to all of our crews who did so much to cover this storm, of course, our team of meteorologists. And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email that's waiting in your inbox every morning with local news, events, and headlines to get you ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.